Why are so many black men absent from their children's lives?
I don't have that answer. I can speculate. I think sometimes as we start to see that young boys or young teenagers, both obviously male and female, are having babies younger and younger. So that connection to family, I think that there's a distance. So people don't understand what it means to be a provider from a male standpoint for your family. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the breadwinner or making more than the woman in your family, but you need to be the head of your household. And I don't know if that training is there coming up. Because I know that for me, every Sunday, we're having dinner. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. We're doing that as a family. We're having dinner. Growing up, we didn't have, because I was in a lot of sports and doing other activities. So that weekly thing, it wasn't expected because I may not get home till late. But Sundays, family dinner is a must.
Is there something that we as a society can do to help reverse that trend? Not just the individual black man making the same decision that I made when my ex-wife was mean to me, that I'm going to be in my son's life. Okay? Not just that guy making that decision. But is there something that we as a society can do to help that decision be made more often?
The concept that it takes a village really to raise a child, and that village starts with your own, in your own home, which branches out into your own community, which branches out into society in itself. So it's about caring. They say that a lot of stuff starts at home. So if both parents are in the home, or even your nuclear family, if both parents are in the home, and if not, then someone else needs to step in and provide some of that role, that good solid role modeling and role mentoring. So it starts at home and it just kind of branches out. So the concept of it takes a village. If as a society we looked at things from more of a global standpoint, more of a village perspective, and start to take care of each other versus just our own, I think we can slowly but surely turn some things around.
Let's pretend for a moment that all 7 billion of us are going to watch this video.
Okay.
What would you say to us?
Take a chance on each other. Embrace each other to the fullest, and understand that you and I are no different. And be kind and gentle to your fellow person. There's that commercial that you see, and I forget the name of the commercial or the sponsor, that you see people helping each other. It could be opening the door or picking up a napkin or keeping the person from walking out into traffic. Those are very simple things that we could do every single day to help each other.
And we could even do bigger things.
Oh, we could do, but that's where it starts. It's it's those little things. They say little things mean a lot. A simple good morning, a simple smile. Letting someone make that turn before you. Those are just some simple things that it just kind of starts, and then that person does the same thing, and so then the cycle just perpetuates itself.
Who are your heroes?
I start with my mother. Even as a child, and although she passed away when I was 9, she struggled with lupus. But she instilled and ingrained a lot of stuff in my sisters and I, from as far back as I can remember. And one of the main things was, always take care of your sisters, always be there for your sisters. And that's one of the things that I saw her struggle in, just dealing with it, not knowing what I had no idea what lupus was, but seeing her strength in dealing with and living through the adversity of us not having. I talked about going hungry. I've gone hungry before, but the reassurance from my mother saying it'll be okay. It's still, it actually kind of gives me chills now to even think about it. And then I have, my other heroes, just absolutely love what Dr. King did. There's certain, there are big pieces and parts of Malcolm, that I absolutely loved. I love what W.E.B. Du Bois did and stood for. I've been to his gravesite in Ghana. I loved what Fannie Lou Hamer stood for. So I've got a lot of heroes. If I could pick one to have dinner with today, that's a historical figure. Maya Angelou. I would have dinner with Maya Angelou. For
Why?
In her poetry, there's a lot of life, that comes out, and in her recitation of her poetry, some of the things that comes across and what it is that she's saying, and I know why Cageburg sings. I too dream America. So a bunch of her things. It's so life, and I think one of the questions I would want to ask her is, what inspires you? And how do you feel how does it feel to know that you are changing a lot of people's lives whenever they are reciting your poems? Then I would ask, I would love to sit at the table with Malcolm, Martin, and our current president.
Because their efforts are largely responsible for the possibility of him doing what he's doing.
Absolutely. Not even the possibility, because if they had not, he would not. Obviously, King gave up a lot. Malcolm gave up a lot.
Well, like when Reverend Jackson ran for president, everybody knew it wasn't even a possibility.
They didn't have a chance.
Right.
Let's even think about Al Sharpton, his bid. No, it wasn't going to happen. But it just kind of goes to show you that we, as a society, we've come a long way. Would you ever thought in your lifetime that you'd see an African-American president?
Well, thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, my pleasure.
And thank you so much for taking your precious time to meet with me. I'm very grateful.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me, Doug. Please tell us your full name, the position you occupy, and how you ended up there.
My name is Doug Woolley. I work for Goodwill of Orange County. I've been here for a little over 17 years now. I came to actually Goodwill by way of what's called the California State Department of Rehabilitation. I am, for all intents and purposes, a disabled veteran.
How are you disabled, and what's your disability?
I ended up dislocating my ankle coming down a freshly dug fire break on Camp Pendleton in 92, 93. So ended up exiting the military with a service-connected disability.
Please tell us where you were born, where you were raised, and a little bit about your family of origin.
I'm originally from a small town in Texas called Plainview, Texas, right in between Amarillo and Lubbock, commonly known as the Panhandle of Texas, up at the top. Most of my family is still there. I lost my mom to lupus when I was 9 years old. My aunt and uncle, my uncle was the pastor of our church, small church there in Plainview, raised me with their 3 kids.
How many siblings do you have, and what happened to them when you went with your uncle?
Well, I have 2 siblings. I have 2 older sisters, and my 2 older sisters ended up staying with with our father, and I just ended up staying with my aunt and uncle.
Because you were kind of young.
I was young, and I was more. That's where I wanted to be. As I wanted to be with my family, and not necessarily with where my father and my 2 sisters were.
What, if any, religion were you raised in?
Oh, certainly raised in religion. With Pentecostal. Obviously it's a Christian denomination, Church of God in Christ.
Do you currently attend church?
I do.
Which one?
Yes. I kind of bounce between a few different churches here in Orange County. I don't attend regularly. I'm still searching for what I'm considering a church home.
And so, name 2 or 3 that you.
I've been to Christ Our Redeemer in Irvine. I've been to Saddleback. I've also been to Gospel Light, which is here in Santa Ana.
And all of those are non-denominational Protestant Christian, or are they also Pentecostal?
No, actually, Gospel Light is the only one that's Pentecostal. Saddleback, I believe, is non-denominational, and Christ Our Redeemer, or CORE, is African American.
Why is it necessary for blacks to have organizations that parallel a general organization, but serve more or less the same purpose?
Well, I think if you look at things from a historical standpoint, a lot of these same organizations we weren't allowed to weren't allowed to be a part of anyway.
Right. I'm a real estate broker, and the realtors didn't allow blacks in, and that's why there is realtists.
Right. Correct.
But blacks are members of are realtors today,
Mm-hmm.
and there's still some that are realtists.
Right.
It seems kind of strange to me.
Right. Well, I think, and a lot of people have issues with organizations that have a color or a race attached to it. I think it gives me an extra added sense of belonging to something that's just a little bit of a natural fit for me. For me to belong to the 100 Black Men of Orange County, which I do, it's, it carries a lot of weight for me. I guess it would be no different than if I belonged to a Masons organization, but it just so happens that I may be, and I'm not, a member of the Black Masons. Whereas these other organizations I may not have been able to belong to in the past.
But not in your lifetime. It hasn't been that way in your lifetime.
Some things change and some things stay the same. And growing up in a small town, I haven't experienced a whole lot of racism or a whole lot of discrimination and prejudice, but I have had my stings of it.
Sure.
So sometimes it's, I think it's a natural reaction and a natural feeling for sometimes people to be more comfortable with and around their own.
Do you think that someday those organizations will dissolve of their own not being necessary? Or do you think that 150 years from now, your great-great-grandson's still going to feel that need?
I think those organizations will always, be necessary. Because it does it adds a certain sense of belonging, and even it grants and solidifies a certain sense of identity, even because I belong to a fraternity that just so happens to be
a black fraternity.
At the black fraternity. That's not to say that there's not white members or other members of color, because there are. It just so happens to be a predominantly African American fraternity.
Please tell us about your post-secondary education.
I have a master's degree in sociology currently, and I'm now working on my MBA. My first master's is from Cal State University Fullerton, and I'm working on my MBA right now from University of Redlands. And I just absolutely love both of the programs. From a sociological standpoint, knowing and understanding people, and looking at the dynamic of social structure and group interactions it's one thing, and I think it's absolutely great. One of the things I wanted to look at from a business standpoint is really truly the business side of human nature. Because sometimes people have a tendency of changing whenever it comes to dealing with things, absolutely, dealing with money. So one of the things I wanted to look at is not just from a marketability standpoint, but to try to put the two together and think I'd be able to be a really good fit in dealing with people. Because at the end of the day, we are all people. Whether money makes us greedy, or whether we're just struggling because we don't have money. There are some things that are just inherent with human nature. So, and I've just been drawn to people, and then like I said, just want to make that marketability standpoint.
What's your bachelor's degree in?
I have a dual bachelor's. One is in sociology, and the other one is in Afro-ethnic studies.
What is the mission of Goodwill?
The mission of Goodwill is to provide people with disabilities and other barriers the opportunity to achieve their highest levels of personal and economic independence.
Of all the places you could work, why do you work for Goodwill?
I've been asked that several times, and It all starts with the immediate gratification of helping people. Not to mention that I am an immediate recipient or direct recipient of our mission related services. Because that's how I came here, with having the service connected disability. Then I was referred to the California State Department of Rehabilitation, which referred me to Goodwill. And I've been here ever since. A lot of disabilities are not just truly visible or physical for that matter. I could have a mental illness and you not know. I could be depressed and you not know. Anything that falls within